The demo for top-down tactical PUBG spin-off shooter PUBG Blindspot is out now as part of Steam Next Fest, and considering I, Eurogamer's resident trendsetter Ian Higton, was one of the first people in the world to tell everyone about how good PUBG actually was, I figured I better try this new iteration out for size 2. But here's the thing, despite the Steam page saying that the game was inspired by PUBG Battlegrounds, and despite the fact that publisher Krafton has slapped a dinky little PUBG sticker above its logo, it's pretty clear from the second that you choose a character and jump into a 5v5 demolition match that another game has been a much bigger inspiration here, namely Ubisoft's Rainbow Six Siege. In place of the parachute jumps, there's chosen spawn points. Instead of the shrinking play zone, there's tight maps full of entrances and vents and corridors that can be barricaded or barbed wired or trapped or observed in a variety of gadgety ways. And instead of a character having the ability to wear a butt pan on their hip to protect their precious posterior, in Blindspot there is literally a character who has the ability to smash down walls with a sledgehammer. See, I said sledge and then a little bit of a pause between the word hammer there, because he uses a sledgehammer, but the character in Rainbow Six is called Sledge. Yeah. Seriously, do not let the PUBG name fool you here. If you're going into Blindspot expecting a similar experience to Brendan Green's 8-year-old Battle Royale baby, but with a sky-high perspective, you, my friends, will be massively disappointed. However, that's not to say PUBG fans shouldn't try Blindspot, because, well, from my experience, they absolutely should. As someone who still regularly plays PUBG, and as someone who pumped hundreds of hours into Rainbow Six Siege when it first came out, I actually had a ton of fun with Blindspot, and in this video, I'll be telling you lot all about 7 things that you need to know before you give it a go for yourselves. Your vision in PUBG Blindspot revolves around line of sight, which means that, even though you can see this drone's eye view of the map and get a good idea of the routes available to you, you will only be able to properly see exactly what is in front of your eyes. That means that, even if an enemy is standing right behind you, you won't see them on screen until they open fire, and by that point, it's gonna be way too late for you. So, no prizes for guessing why they called this game Blindspot then. This visual style basically replicates what you'd be able to see if you were playing from a first-person perspective, and then translates that to a top-down viewpoint, so it does take a little while to get used to its peculiarities. For instance, crouching behind a piece of cover then obscures the view of the room in front of you, as it would do in first person, because all you'd be able to see is the back of a bookshelf. But because you have this bird's eye view still, it's easy to forget this in the heat of the moment and wonder why your targets have suddenly vanished. It's a practice makes perfect kind of thing for sure, but the vision cone is always on screen to remind you where your blind spots are, so it shouldn't take newcomers too long to get accustomed to. Thankfully, you don't have to rely just on your vision alone though. There are some really strong sound cues here, especially for things like footsteps, which can help you pinpoint when enemies are close by, or even better, just behind a destructible wall. More importantly, your line of sight is shared between you and your teammates, so enemies spotted by other players or any cameras that they may have placed will be visible to you too, no matter what pieces of furniture are in your way. And of course, just like in Rainbow Six, communication is key, so the more you talk or ping targets and enemy locations, the better for everyone. Now, the Blindspot demo actually gives players access to 2 game modes, Team Deathmatch and the previously mentioned Demolition. Team Deathmatch is great for getting a hang of the shooting and the game's fast-paced movement, whilst Demolition is a Rainbow Six Siege-inspired 5v5 tactical shooter in which you and your team alternates between attacking and defending 2 set rooms on a map. Demolition is better played slowly and more methodically than Team Deathmatch, and it's the one that Rainbow Six fans will immediately gravitate towards. At the start of each round, the defenders have a short window of time to barricade doors and windows, create lines of sight, set traps or place health kits, and get themselves ready for the oncoming onslaught. Attackers, on the other hand, spawn outside the buildings and must make their way through tight corridors and small, close-quarters rooms towards their chosen objective, where they'll then need to plant a decryptor device. Only one player can carry the decryptor at once, and so they'll need to be protected at all costs, because if they're killed, other teammates will then have to risk running back to gather it up again in order to be able to complete the mission. And this is all done against a very tight time limit. It's a mode that really rewards planning and teamwork, and it's set to be the favourite pick due to the fact that it can still deliver the same heart-in-your-mouth intensity as a round of Siege can, all whilst feeling much more accessible to newcomers and casuals thanks to its isometric visuals. One of the most interesting things about Blindspot is how its developer Arc Team has managed to bring the speed and accuracy of a first or third-person shooter to a visual style that's technically more suited to slow-paced, squad-focused, turn-based tactical sims. General movement is handled with keyboard and mouse, and players can spin the camera around freely as they make their way towards their objectives. In order to aim and fire weapons, players will need to hold down the right mouse button, which then readies the gun and slows player movement speed. What's really interesting here, though, is how players have to use the mouse wheel to switch between aiming for head or body shots, whilst holding down the left control key makes your character aim for crouched targets instead. You can still spray and pray with the majority of guns as a newcomer and hit plenty of targets, but once you've gotten used to these little shortcuts and got them lodged into your muscle memory, your accuracy and kill count should increase significantly. And talking about accuracy, as you'd expect, different guns work better at different ranges, with shotguns being a literal blast to use in close-quarters defense maps, and SMGs being a kind of good all-rounder for all situations. Interestingly, the two sniper characters are the only ones that have the ability to hold their breath and focus their shots, but seeing players actually pick these characters during demolition games was a massive rarity, probably due to the fact that there's rarely any large open areas in the maps in which to use them effectively. Just like in Rainbow Six Siege, each of the 10 characters available in Blindspot comes with a set primary and secondary weapon and one unique gadget. And aside from a selectable team gadget, which varies depending on whether you're on attack or defense in demolition mode, you cannot customize a character's loadout, and so you'll have to experiment with each available character to find out which one fits your playstyle perfectly. None of these characters are recognizable from PUBG, by the way, which is something I was slightly surprised about. I figured at least we'd see a spin on the classic white shirt, tie and jeans PUBG man, but no, these are all brand new characters with questionable fashion choices and wackily nonsensical names like Fence, Drop Down and Kayak. I haven't had a chance to get to grips with each character yet, but my early favourites were Apex and Fnatic, who were armed with SMGs and had great defensive items like blue zone grenades and medkits, while my favourite character for attacking, Heinz, was not chosen for his beam-based name, but because of his drill camera gadget that fires a camera at a wall that then burrows through it and allows the whole team to see what hazards lay beyond. Despite being a demo, Blindspot has a generous 7 maps on offer, although technically it's 11 if you count the A and B variations on the demolition maps. Whilst some of them, mainly the 3-team deathmatch maps, are in varying states of completion with placeholder textures making up the majority of the geometry, each one of these I played had a decent flow to them, with the Javilla Museum being a standout favourite in team deathmatch thanks to its symmetrical design, which meant it was much easier to quickly learn my preferred routes around it. The demolition maps, on the other hand, felt much more polished and intricate. Again, some were more fleshed out than others, but the amount of interconnected rooms and corridors full of doors, windows, crawl spaces, and destructible walls meant that it was a lot harder to memorise each layout, which is going to be essential to success once people really start getting sucked into the game. There are opportunities for ambushes around every corner, and these intricate maps combined with the unique character abilities means that there's always this delicious, often terrifying unpredictability to each encounter. So, I know I've talked about Siege similarities a lot in this preview, but is there actually anything here that ties into PUBG Battlegrounds at all? Well, the short answer is not really, no. There's no looting aside from respawning health and ammo pickups in Team Deathmatch, and no matter what map you choose, you won't find a level 2 helmet lying around anywhere. Yes, all the primary and secondary weapons that the characters use can be found in PUBG, but pretty much every gadget aside from the standard throwables, the timed explosive and the blue zone grenades are brand new to the universe. So yeah, this one feels almost like Krafton should have sold the publishing rights to Ubisoft so it could call it Rainbow Six Blindspot or something, but they didn't, so instead we get a few sentences of lore in a couple of the character bios tying them to the Battlegrounds game, and one map set in a Battlegrounds winner's mansion to loosely tie it all into the PUBG universe. Now, it's safe to say that no game is perfect, and so far, despite showing a lot of promise, there are a couple of glaring negatives here which seem to have been caught in Arc Team's blind spot. Get it? Rather than being a problem specific to the game, however, these negatives are to do with its players, which obviously would be something that Arc Team and Krafton probably don't want to patch out. But still, these issues do have quite a large impact on the game's fun to frustration levels. Firstly, players on teams who lose the first round of a match have a habit of quitting out in a huff, which then causes the knock-on effect of unbalanced teams, and then more people dropping out as they realise their team is screwed. It's really annoying to see your team slowly noping out over the course of a few rounds, so anyone going in solo and playing with self-serving randoms is going to have way less fun with this one than those who are going in with a dedicated team of friends. The other aggravation I had, and I assume this one will be much easier to fix, was the spawn camping in Team Deathmatch. This could absolutely be sorted out with the inclusion of a safe area for spawning players that the opposing team can't enter, but currently in this demo, no such thing exists. Oh, not again, you butt! With Rainbow Six Siege still doing the numbers, Rainbow Six Siege X on the horizon, and PUBG still being a monolithic game, Blindspot's liberal lifting of established ideas, combined with its recognisable Battle Royale branding, might just make this one blow up like a well-timed sticky bomb to a destructible wall. The isometric visuals are a fun twist on the genre, and despite some of the player-based problems that I encountered, I can't find too much fault in the gameplay itself. There might not be that much classic PUBG in there, but it has all the tension and suspense that you'd want from a great Rainbow Six style game, whilst at the same time feeling a little more accessible to casual players too. I mean, I'm definitely excited to play more, although next time I am absolutely going to be bringing a team with me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this little look at PUBG Blindspot. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, subscribe to us here at Eurogamer for almost daily videos about video games, and why not check out some of these other preview videos that are on screen and clickable right now. But just don't click on my face, please. That'd be rude, and it actually kind of hurts too. So, ow, my eye! Ow, I said don't click on my face, and you went right for my eyeball. What the ow!